Hi, this is Steve Stedman, and I'm here to talk about a couple of the daily checkup or database health quick scan items that we come across occasionally. These are settings that we optimize or configure on the SQL Server in order to help with performance usually. The first are two that really play well together. The first one is the cost threshold for parallelism being set to the default of 5. The next one is the max degree of parallelism being set to the default of 0. And what these relate to is specifically when a query is run and it's going to be run across multiple cores or processors, it needs to be split up. And that splitting it up is what's usually referred to as parallelism. So in the middle 90s, when Microsoft set these up as the defaults, it was really rare for computers to have the number of processors or cores that we have today. And also it was really rare for people to do very big queries at all because the servers were so limited. So the default for the cost threshold for parallelism is set to 5, and it's been this way since pretty much day one of SQL Server. But what this means is the cost is the amount of work involved in processing that query. So if you ever look at an execution plan and it shows a specific cost number in there, that's a cost of 5. Anything with a cost greater than 5, SQL Server will send that to multiple threads or multiple cores to do the processing of that. And what's bad about that is you get some really small queries that don't take an awful lot of work that are being sent off to be processed in parallel. And what we like to do is we like to adjust the setting to about 50 or 60 or 70, somewhere kind of in that range, and then see how things go. And what you're going to see if this is set too low is you're going to see a whole lot of CX packet weights on your system where too small of queries are being forced to go parallel when what you really want is just want big queries to go parallel. Now, the next setting is the max degree of parallelism. And what this is saying is how many threads or cores is the processing going to be split off to be run amongst. So if you have 4 cores on your server and it's set to 0, that just says take however many SQL Server feels it needs to do the processing. But if you've got a server with, let's say, 48 cores or 64 cores or crazy big numbers like that, it doesn't make sense necessarily to use all of those cores for parallel processing on the same query. So oftentimes we'll set that number to around 8 maybe as a max. And I know on newer versions of SQL Server, we can set it higher, maybe up to around 16 even, based off the number of cores in the system. But you never want it to be more than the number of cores, and you never want it to be too big. It's one of those sort of Goldilocks type settings where you don't want it too hot, you don't want it too cold, you just want it just right. Now, those two work together because if you have a cost threshold that's too low and a max degree of parallelism that's too high, you'll get a lot of really small queries being split up, going to multiple cores to do all the work, and then having to come back and bring the results back to one place. So we recommend adjusting the cost threshold to somewhere around 50 to 70 and monitor it and see how things go, and setting the max degree of parallelism up to the number of cores with a max of, like, depending on the version of SQL Server, somewhere between 8 and 16 typically. All right, this is Steve Stedman. Hopefully these SQL Server tips will help you out today. Have a great day.